Hello class, and welcome to our video lecture on why is compromise now a dirty word with a question mark, nice rhetorical question, and a call to improve campus accessibility for the mobility impaired. Notice how we have that rhyme of accessibility, mobility, a call, right? Play on words. They're not actually making a call, but just as you call someone to make a request, sort of about a request. So both of the titles, right? Make effective use of figures of speech. We've got the rhetorical question here with why is compromise now a dirty word? And when you want to emphasize a word itself, what she doesn't want to emphasize is the act of compromising. She means the actual word. When people say the word compromise, it's like, oh, we don't want to do that. When you mean the word itself, put it in quotes. So she's emphasizing the word compromise. Now, dirty word, too. It's kind of a figure of speech metaphorically, right? It's not literally, you wouldn't clean the word off with Windex or something like that. Dirty is a bad word, a word that people react in a negative way to, as opposed to a positive or a clean word. So, interesting topic. Compromise. Meeting in the middle. This whole essay is about Rogerian argument. Our first term on our terms list is Rogerian argument. And this essay is talking about how people no longer want to participate in Rogerian argument. When you think about what's going on in the world nowadays, especially between politics and legal situations involving different countries, different people, different cultures, are they all willing to compromise? Are they all willing to employ Rogerian argument to reach a mutually beneficial solution instead of I'm 100% right, you're 100% wrong? It doesn't work that way in the world. So I think this is a really interesting essay, also dealing with language, right? Um, just like the Coca-Cola ad, just like the Korean soap operas. Just like the essay that you'll read next week, who are you calling underprivileged? So again, language is something that you might write about for essay 4, and also just the idea of compromise, just the idea of culture, just the idea of why is it better to work together? What are the effects of working together for whatever issue you're planning on writing on for this last essay, just like hopefully you used Rogerian argument, right? Like Kathy Freston did in Vegetarian is a New Prius. Eat less meat, right? Again, when you look at both sides of it with the last paper, yes, domestic surveillance, right, is making our hopefully is making our country safer, but at what cost? Is it violating our privacy? Can we have a mutually beneficial solution? Um, so if you pay attention here, I'm on page 145, her opening paragraph. When did the word compromise get compromised? Right? We've got her rhetorical questions. We've got her play on words there. When did the negative connotations, another word we've been talking about, connotation, the emotional associations of words. When did the negative connotations of he was caught in a compromising position or she compromised her ethics replace the positive connotations of they reached a compromise? What she's saying is that compromising used to be a good thing and used to have positive connotations, positive emotional associations. When did it become so negative? Well, first example, right? Remember, you want to have details, you want to have examples, you want to have quotes. House Speaker John Boehner, I reject the word, right? And he says, oh, they're going to sell me out. His position is common right now, she says. Tony Perkins, compromise is the companion of losers. I mean, she's definitely got quotes to support her claim, and these people definitely have an ethos as far as politicians are concerned. So notice how in the margins of the essay, in our book, they've labeled the different strategies, right? They every time she's giving a claim and supporting it with a reason, you can see in blue in the margins. Whenever she provides evidence, whenever she provides warrants, right? So this essay is a great review for the bold-faced terms related to Toulmin's strategy: claim, reason, warrant, qualifiers, right? Um, so I think she does a nice job of going through example after example and looking at multiple sides of a very complex argument. What I'd like to do is draw your attention to page 147. I think she brings it all together. I mean, if you look at right in the middle of the page, right, the paragraph with the first word but, the third paragraph down, um, but this is not happening only in the Senate. There is a rising adversarial spirit among the people and the press. She's saying this isn't just in politics, it's bigger picture. It isn't only the obvious invective on TV and radio. A newspaper story that criticizes its subject is praised as tough. One that refrains from criticism is scorned as a puff piece. The notion of balance today often leads to a search for the most extreme opposing views, so they can be presented as both sides, leaving no forum for subtlety, multiple perspectives, or the middle ground, where most people stand. Framing issues in this polarizing way, meaning either one or the other, no middle ground, no Rogerian. Framing issues in this polarizing way reinforces the impression that Boner voiced, that compromise is selling out. Being surrounded by vituperation and seeing opponents as enemies is corrosive to the human spirit. It's also dangerous to our democracy. Now she has a quote from Margaret Mead, another source, brings it into the conclusion, talking about the two-party system and the lack of compromise. If that's something you want to write about for Essay 4, you want to look at a modern issue or an issue that's currently being debated in our governments or legislations or courts, and you want to look at both sides of it in order to try to come to some sort of a Rogerian solution for Essay 4. Again, could you quote from any of the essays in the book? Yes. And are the essays that we've been reading recently and we will read next week good examples of essays that might lead you towards a topic that you might use for sources for Essay 4? Absolutely. I mean, this is about Rogerian strategy. If you could bring Rogerian strategy into your Essay 4, which you should, why not quote from Deborah Tannen's Why is Compromise Now a Dirty Word? So on to the conclusion, right? That trust is exactly what is threatened when the very notion of compromise is rejected. Again, it brings it back to the bigger picture. When people reject the possibility of a compromise, you can't. How do you trust that you're going to be able to work something out? Because essentially, what are they saying? You know, it's my way or no way at all, um, and that is the fallacy of dogmatism, right? Compromise, meeting in the middle. Dogmatism, there's one and only one possibility, as opposed to Rogerian argument. Now, our second essay for Class 1, A Call to Improve Campus Accessibility for the Mobility Impaired. This is another one of the sample student essays that you can literally use as an example to emulate, right? Just like the sample student essays we've read earlier in the semester, right? This essay fulfills the qualities of an academic argument. It's carefully structured research. The sections are all labeled with headers. If you want to break your essays down and you want to start experimenting with different styles and labeling your sections with headers, I don't have a problem with that. We see the works cited is done correctly. The intro paragraphs, right? It's a multiple paragraph introduction. It's 3 paragraphs for the introduction because it's really well written. It's a long essay. What are longer essays? More paragraphs. But her intro does what? It provides background on her subject, it presents her claim, and it lists out what supporting ideas she's going to focus on, right? You see the word but in the first paragraph. In the second sentence, you see the word but in the second paragraph, starting off the third sentence as well, right? When she starts her sentences off with but, she's being Rogerian. She's looking at both sides of the situation. Now, what are the issues? She lists them out at the bottom of 295 at the end of her second paragraph, right? These are her supporting points. She lists them out and then she deals with them one by one in her body paragraphs in her supporting ideas, right? But for many students and faculty at UT, including me, maneuvering the UT campus in a wheelchair is a daily experience of stress and frustration. Thesis. Although, Rogerian, the university has made a concerted and continuing effort to improve access. Nice concession, but now here's the refutation with her claim. Students and faculty with physical disabilities still suffer from discriminatory hardship, unequal opportunity to succeed, and lack of independence. They suffer from 1. Discriminatory hardship, 2. Unequal opportunity to succeed, and 3. Lack of independence. Notice how she lists them out in a parallel fashion in the last sentence of paragraph 2, right? In paragraph 3, she further qualifies her argument with the notion that even though some people say, well, why would this affect me? I don't have a disability. It could happen. It could happen to anybody through accidents, through temporary disabilities, right? Better accessibility would also benefit the numerous students and faculty with temporary disabilities and help the university recruit a more diverse body of students and faculty, right? Again, they need to make it a priority, she says. I love how she looks at all different aspects and really presents a very, very clear argument and supports it throughout. This is an excellent example of an academic argument. I love how she's writing about fostering empathy and understanding. That's what compromise is. That's what Rogerian strategy is, working towards a mutually beneficial solution. I want to draw your attention to her conclusion because in your essays, what should you do in your concluding paragraphs? Repeat your point, review your support, and reflect back on the prompt in the big picture. Her conclusion begins on page 301. Although the university has made progress, she starts with a concession. Very Rogerian. Although the university has made progress in accessibility improvements on an old campus, it must take bolder steps to improve the experience of its members with mobility impairments. At present, people with permanent mobility impairments face unreasonable hardship, unequal opportunity to succeed, and lack of independence. She reviews her 3 supporting points, right? She repeated her claim, she's reviewing her support, and now notice how she brings it all together. Remember, repeat, review, reflect. Here's her reflection. To enhance the quality of all its members, and increase recruitment of disabled individuals, the university should focus its resources on increasing the rate of accessibility improvements and improving the quality of its services for the mobility impaired. As a public institution, ethos, bigger picture. The university has an obligation to make the campus more inclusive and serve as an example for disability rights. With careful planning and a genuine desire to respond to special needs, practical and cost-effective changes to the university campus can significantly improve the quality of life of many of its members and prove beneficial to the future of the university as a whole, reflecting on the bigger picture. So, her intro is 3 paragraphs, and her conclusion is 2 paragraphs. But notice how she just provides more examples of background, more examples of reflection in the conclusion, more examples of background in the intro. So even though they're longer, she's still providing background, thesis, and support in her intro, and she's repeating the point, reviewing the support, and reflecting on the prompt in her conclusion. And as we know, her topic sentences are very well developed. Her body paragraphs are very well developed. They start with a topic sentence. They have details, examples, support, descriptions, and then they have a transitional or concluding sentence. Lastly, notice how her headers focus as transitions between the paragraphs. Feel free to experiment with headers. And also make sure your works cited format is done correctly. As always, thank you for your patience, and I hope this video is helpful as you're reflecting on the essay and thinking about your topics for Essay 4.